All right. I absolutely cannot match Hobby's energy, but I'm sure gonna try here this morning. Really excited to be back. Our second time here at the SitePlan Summit. Field first is adjacent, parallel to a phrase that Rich and I have been promoting here at Hensel Phelps for many years, and that phrase is support the field. Right, as a construction company, and I'm sure everyone in the room would agree. That's our entire job, is to keep the field moving, right? And when we're evaluating software and adopting software into our business, it has to check that box. It has to make the field, has to make construction better, and we absolutely think that cmBuilder does that for us at Hensel Phelps. So my name is Kyle Tomak. I'm a VDC manager at Hensel Phelps. Been with the company 12 years, coming up on 13. Based in the Southern California region. I've worked in some other regions of Hensel Phelps leading up to that. At work, as a VDC manager, I'm responsible for supporting all sorts of technology, whether that's laser scanning, drones, cmBuilder, of course. Lately, I've poured a lot of energy into standing up our augmented reality program, both interior and exterior, as you can see in the bottom left there. Outside of work, you'll find me far away from technology. I need a break from it every now and again. So I'll go camping, I'll go hiking with my wife, play with my couple dogs there. And then I tackle projects that are way too ambitious and way out of my league, but I sure as hell try.
Good morning, Rich DeLacy, project superintendent, also with Hensel Phelps. Been here 27 years, spent 25 years out in the field, on site, putting in place about $1.5 billion worth of work. Just recently, about the last year and a half, moved over to the program development side, so helping a lot more with procurements and whatnot. I've been married for 25 years, so I have three boys, ranging from 15 to 21. Yeah, I almost forgot that one. She'd kill me. And similar to Kyle, I like to do a lot of fun things. This weather is terrible. I don't know how you guys deal with this. I like clearly sunny skies and going to the beach and going riding and stuff. So Hensel Phelps, a little bit about us. We were founded in 1937. We are coming up on our 100-year centennial. They are already talking about it quite a bit. So it's a huge milestone and they're already prepping for it. We're 100% employee owned. The CEO owns less than 8% of the company. And we have 4 business units: development, construction, services, and most recently we acquired a division, water, in 2021. So we're going to talk a little bit about that too.
Across the United States, and we do a little bit of international work as well. We're divided up into 10 different regions. The newest of those regions is our PNW region and our Mid-South region here in Nashville. Actually, we just won our first project in my home state of Ohio. We're doing the Columbus Airport, which has a massive cmBuilder presence on that project as well. But as Rich said, we also have a couple other departments that make up our business unit. Like he said, that's the development, water, and services based out of Colorado, but they support all regions in Hensel Phelps. So last year I got up here and I was super excited to say we have 100 projects in cmBuilder. And here's the various statuses, which, truth be told, we can do better statusing some of our projects, but we had over 100 projects in just under 8 months of using cmBuilder. Fast forward a year, and we've doubled our amount of projects in cmBuilder, over 215. Again, we can do better statusing them, but the one that I'm really proud of is the fact that we're using it on a ton of construction sites. So really going beyond procurement, and that's where kind of that field first approach kind of comes into play.
So in June of 24, we had 11 teams in cmBuilders, about 190 teams that were trained. 79, almost 80 teams are in SoCal alone. So we are out of the SoCal district. So a lot of what we're going to talk about is based out of SoCal. But we do have some company stats. So fast forward to a year later, 14 teams. Those Kyle will go through those here in a second. But the biggest thing is almost 700 users trained company-wide and almost 300 in SoCal alone. So that's a huge bump up. We more than tripled.
Yep. And we're trying to, organize our groups into those different regions that we have, and then a couple other very specific business units, like Rich said, our water group, our MCIS group, sustainability partners over in Hawaii. So trying to be very strategic how we organize our users within cmBuilder.
So 901 invitations, and again, that's 700, almost 700 trained, and the majority of those guys are, once again, in Southern California.
That's probably just because we're really pushy and we push it a lot, but it's really great for us. So a little bit of more on that user breakdown, and thank God that these stats back up our title of our presentation, because I submitted it before I created this, but I had a hunch that the majority of our users are from the field, which is pretty awesome to see. So you can see our top user group is actually our field engineers. That's our entry level field staff getting into cmBuilder. Behind them are area superintendents, and then we also have our project superintendents behind them, and then everybody else. So there's a misconception that cmBuilder is just a VDC tool, and I think everyone in the room would agree it's not. And we take a lot of pride in setting up the projects, but then we turn it over the field for them to continue to use it, not just for procurement throughout the duration of the project. So really proud of that right there. You can see more than half of the users are from the field, which is really awesome. Um, but that doesn't mean that every region is the same. We were from Southern California, but every region kind of approaches it a little bit different. We're one company, but we operate a little bit different. For example, the Pacific region, they bring in a lot of their senior estimators, and they're the ones kind of running the ship in terms of cmBuilder over in Hawaii. So every procurement, it's actually a senior estimator doing the work. But for contrast's sake, here in Southern California, we've onboarded a ton of our safety professionals to leverage cmBuilder. So every region operates a little bit different about what they want to get out of the program, how they want to manage it, and who they want to onboard and tackle the work.
So just some stats from cmBuilder. Pretty impressive, 22,000 resources that our teams have put in place. But the one I want to focus on is the milestone. So 7,000 milestones, and those are not all just entered into the program. Over 50% of those are actually linked from CPMs. So we're not just utilizing the program; we're actually bringing in our P6 schedules and whatnot. So it's very proud of all the teams for all the work they're doing.
I got up here last year and I kind of beat that drum of like, we have to do better of, a handover from procurement to construction. And, we always have these fancy renderings during estimating and bid time. And then we go back to napkin sketches and PDFs when we win the job. I was like, we got to do better. And really, this is our philosophy. We should be utilizing the same tool during procurement and then hand that right over to our construction teams to keep using, to be consistent, not only for ourselves, but for our clients, our owners, our trade partners, and just our Hensel Phelps staff. And, because that there's just better clarity and a better understanding of what that project is if we're using that same tool. And that in turn has you can attest to this, better estimates, come out of this. We're able to find a bunch of things that are otherwise missed. And then really once you have that project set up, now you can go use that for all the traditional things that cmBuilder is great for: site logistics, phasing, phase turnover, things like that. So that's kind of our philosophy and what we've been pushing here the past year. And here's a couple examples of that. So I'm going to go over the T5 program here in a second, but you can see here, this was our procurement scenario set up completely by a project superintendent. We won that job, which I'll go over. I always kind of lock that scenario. I create one called Duplicate Me. And then now area superintendents are starting to hop in and do their own work and continue to enhance that plan. And we do a lot of design build stuff, so things ebb and flow quite a bit. But that's kind of the way that I like to manage it. Another example, another win is, again, we have that procurement scenario and then it gets duplicated. And now this project superintendent is off to the races using that on an active construction project.
So just some of our recent wins. Here are 8 projects that we most recently won. $3.5 billion worth of work. One of those projects down there on the bottom is LAX T5. That one is over $1.5 billion and growing. And Kyle's going to go through a little bit more on that.
Yeah, we'll talk. I'll talk about this behavioral health one and Rady's in a second, but just take note of that one. Okay, so getting into T5, a huge landmark project, not just for Southern California Hensel Phelps, but for Hensel Phelps as a whole. This will be a landmark project for us. It's an entire demo and rebuild of Terminal 5, and it has to be done before opening ceremony of the Olympics. And it's about 1.5 now. It could creep up to 2.
What year is that?
2028.
2020.
And we're not starting demo until November of this year. So it's pretty aggressive. It has me really worried. It's pretty crazy. It might creep up to 2 billion. Hopefully nobody from LAWA or LAX is listening, but that might creep up a little bit. These are the latest renderings I have because we're still in design right now, design build project. So 30% renderings of what the building's going to look like. The interesting part about this program is it's split into 3 separate projects, kind of. You have your head house project, which is going to be traditionally built, which I'll show you here in a second. We have our site work that's going to be happening for the concourse. But then if you look over here, we're building the entire concourse about a mile away from the project. And then we're going to ship over all 9 segments of the building and set them on that site work. So we kind of have to manage 3 separate projects all at the same time. And this entire project is going to be ran 2 shifts the entire duration of the project. So this rendering I'm about to show you was all done by a project superintendent, and I'll kind of just do a little voiceover of what you're seeing. But this is hot and heavy. The plan's changing every single day. So first we're going to start off by taking over the site, putting up our fence. We're going to start on the north side, demoing the head house. Once we get the head house demoed, we're going to work our way south and demo the concourse and the satellite. You can see over on the left-hand side, we're actively working on Terminal 4, so we need to include that phasing as well.
That's a separate project.
As a separate project at LAX, and we'll get into that. So once it's all demoed, we're going to start doing our head house construction. We're going to start our site work, our site utilities, our storm, gas, fuel lines, project offices over here. While this is being built, we're actually building off-site the entire concourse over here. You're going to be noticing that apron paving is being installed on the east side of the concourse, and there's a specific reason for that. In a second, you're going to see some of those sections of the building getting wheeled over. This was actually a custom resource. These SPMTs, self-propelled modular transporters, that was a custom resource that Cohen was able to produce in about less than 24 hours, which is really awesome. So I just gave him the dimensions and he produced that for us. But this is how we're going to go build this project. Again, 2 shifts. That's the only way this is going to work to get it done by the Olympics. So all the segments get rolled in. Those segments are going to have most of the finishes already installed on the offsite lot. So there should be very minimal we have to do after we wheel them over. At that point, we're going to finish the apron paving over on the west side. We're going to start to install the passenger, the PDBs around the concourse here. As we wrap around the west side of the concourse, you're going to start to see, we're going to turn over that concourse. You see planes start to roll in. And again, this plan is changing all the time. I think we're actually going to reverse the order of the way we bring that in. But yeah, it just speaks to the power of cmBuilder, and it's a great way to communicate our plan for an otherwise very complicated job. So really proud of that win, and you'll definitely hear more about it in the future.
So next up is OC Sanitation Pump Station. So this is a replacement pump station down in Orange County. There's 1,400 linear feet of micro tunneling that we have to get underneath the bay to replace all of that piping. Go ahead. So the first off, there's several challenges on this project. Number one being the postage stamp size piece of property that they actually gave us. That's the fenced area. All the colored areas that you see, those are all easements. So all of those get turned back over to the owner of the RV facility at different phases in the project. So we don't even get all of that land throughout the duration. Another challenge we had was the groundwater that was -5 feet. So we came up with an idea of doing soil mixing that you see here. Once the soil mixing was complete, we were able to start digging down for the sending and receiving pit. So that was also another challenge, making sure that both of those pits stayed dry. And then we roll into the micro tunneling. So micro tunneling is, you see the TBM there, that head actually drills and is pressurized as it drills 1,400 linear feet across that bay. So we kind of did a bird's eye view to show, and it wasn't even going to be straight. It actually serpentines in 2 different directions. Another one of the challenges they told us is that we needed to anticipate hitting something. And if you hit something like a pile on the other side of that bay, you have what's called an intervention. And an intervention is you have to send people actually inside that tunnel and go remove the obstruction. And that's $75,000 a shift. And they said we probably should anticipate hitting like at least 8 piles on that path across there. So yeah, pretty exciting. Next up was the was the HDPE piping. So those two new pipes went inside that RCP that we put across there. We had to put in temporary pumps that you see there in yellow on the side and then do a switchover. So their big thing was to get that new piping up and running off of the existing plant as soon as possible. We had to do all of that before we even started the new pump station. Those pipes were like 5 or 6 years past their life expectancy. So a lot going on. You can see we were actually going to scrape all the sides of the shoring, waterproof all that. Our first plan was to actually do two-sided walls on this. I'll get to that in a little bit, but you'll see that this actually wraps up pretty quickly. The pump station itself was not the hard part about this project. Actually, that was pretty easy to figure out. I had about 120 hours into this build and putting this scenario together. A lot of that was with our estimators and people that were bidding this project with us, just so that we could figure this out, right? So only one model, that was the only model. Everything else, 665 resources on this build, one model, and I didn't even sequence it because it wasn't even that important. So yeah, and so hold right there. The kicker to that whole thing was we didn't take that presentation into the owner. We didn't show them that. We didn't turn it in with our bid. They never even saw it. So all of that work, 120 hours. So our bid was $88 million and the winning bid was 87. So we missed it by less than 1%. And honestly, at the end of the day, once we evaluated all of our risk, we were like, okay, well, that was a good first attempt for our water department here in SoCal. So we felt pretty good about it, and especially only being 1% off. So I showed you that video, so I could show you this video. So this is Whittier Narrows pump station. So fast forward to March of this year. Go ahead. This is a second pump station that we did. Nowhere nearly as complicated as that first one. No micro tunneling, no sending and receiving pits, no two-sided versus one-sided walls. This one was all about just the pump station. So beautiful site. One of the challenges that they did tell us, the Army Corps of Engineers floods this entire area 3 to 4 times a year. No big deal. So one of the things that we came up with was building a berm all the way around the site. You can kind of see that we have extra piles of dirt near the gates. So they will give us a couple, like 24 hours notice to close off those gates. And so that was definitely one of the challenges. So as we were putting this together, I got probably like 90% complete with this. And our PM came up with this idea. And his idea was to reduce the amount of shoring on this project. And you'll see that here in a second. By reducing that and laying back the site, it did a couple things. One, we were able to generate enough soil and dirt to go build that berm and also put our trailers up on like a 3-foot plateau. But more importantly, it reduced the height of all that shoring. It wouldn't have all that steel all the way around it. And we were able to save $5 million on shoring alone. And that $5 million idea is what won us that project. So we were very excited about that. This next little sequence, you'll see that that reduced shoring idea. And so a lot of back and forth with, again, with all of our estimators. We did take this plan. We didn't show them what our plan was, but we talked to the shoring company and said, hey, this is what we're thinking. And they're like, yeah, it's doable. We definitely can do that. So you can see the shoring is like 10 to 12 feet lower. And so now you don't have to do all the tiebacks. You can see the laybacks are a lot further away from the shoring. So now there's not all of that earth pressure on everything. And then all of that material is used for all those berms as well as this emergency equipment plateau. So it was a great idea. And at the end of the day, we wound up winning the project with this. So it's pretty exciting. I like those rotating concrete trunks. Those look good. Sure. Nice. I know the guy that helped develop those. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're just getting going on that project. Super exciting, but a lot of custom resources come out of your ideas, right? The spinning drums is one of those.
Yep. So we just recently put that one together. A little bit of back and forth with Cohen, and so one of the first ones I did. This was back in December of 23. I was like, hey, I need a deck. I just need a plywood deck. You got all these flying tables, so drew up a little picture, sent it over to him. Go ahead. tried to show them what I was looking for. I want to put this deck on top of all of my shoring towers, because that's typically, instead of using the flying tables over there, I want to put the deck on top of the tower. So like I said, in a little bit of back and forth, we were able to put that one together. And that resource, I use that all the time. That one's fantastic for forming up decks. I also use it for like the deck outside the trailers. It's a great resource.
Yep. This is part of a active procurement, but getting water off the site is a really big deal. So these storm tech chambers didn't exist as a resource inside of cmBuilder. We could have easily just thrown some cylinders in the ground and called it a day, but we want to accurately depict, what our plan is. So again, we provided this picture to Cohen. We said, hey, here's the website for that actual product. And again, within 24, 36 hours, something like that, we have an accurate resource to go use. This, without saying too much, without giving it away, we turn in this bid here in a few weeks, I believe, end of the month.
Round two
of this project. So, yeah, it's great to just have something that accurately shows what our plan is for that piece of work.
Couple other resources going back to the OC Sand. This is that pump station. So actually have 3 different sound walls that we've created with Cohen and his team. Here's one of them. A double screw drive to excavate the dirt, a new stair tower, a 5x7, because the stair tower that was in the program was way too big. It was the size of my sending pit, so I needed a much smaller one. And then tankers, and then a new jacking system. So that's the jacking system that actually pushes that TBM across that 1,400 linear feet.
All right, let's go review some projects here. So heading down to La Jolla, San Diego area, this is our Rady Children's Hospital. A little backstory about this. Our first time working for this client, they were super impressed with cmBuilder. They loved it. They've never seen anything like it before. So they were immediately all about it during the procurement time, which is really great. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that here in a second. But really, it's not about procurement at all. Like, we won the job, that's great. What the story I'm trying to tell is how we're actively using it on a job site. So this might scare some of you, maybe cmBuilder included, but we have 43 separate scenarios inside of this cmBuilder project. But that's just because we have separate teams working on the job. We have our site team doing site utilities. We have our ICU tower being built. We have our central utility plant on the back side of the building. So we have all of our FEs, area superintendents, safety managers, safety engineers, all within cmBuilder, kind of working at the same time. And I guess this is for the cmBuilder team here. We're eager to work with you on a way to figure out multiplayer mode, to expand how many milestones we can have, because this works and this is great. This is a level up, but this is tough to manage. This is not the last time you're going to see a slide like this. So I went down to Rady Children's, did a little lunch and learn for the entire field staff, and I kid you not, I came back a week later, and this is the rendering that I saw. So we had 2 superintendents hop in. They took the FE's concrete, lift drawing Revit model, and they completely tied it to their OPC or P6 schedule and completely sequenced out all the self-work. The self-work concrete package on this project is a $50 million scope that we won in addition to the actual hospital tower. And they completely sequenced out the entire self-work scope. And guess what? They figured out their schedule didn't work at all. So they completely reworked their CPM based on what they saw here in cmBuilder, and you just saw the light bulbs go off on that job. So on this project, in addition to doing stuff like this, they're using this for their owner meetings, their staff meetings, and that's why we're so excited for that 4-week look-ahead tool that's coming, because we're just using this in so many other places versus just fleshing out a schedule. We're speaking to this in all of our meetings now.
That is one of the beauties of this. When you actually link the schedule and start linking it to the 3D elements, it's crystal clear when you have a problem in your schedule. Like, oh, you can't put those columns up until you have the deck below it. And sometimes that stuff's hard to see in P6 because of your WBSs and where things are at. It's crystal clear in here. It's amazing.
And, I mentioned before, hey, look at that Rady Children's Behavioral Health. Because we did all this work for Rady Children's Hospital, the owner of Rady Children's came to me and they had me do some like architect program level sequencing for their campus. So I put together generic massing across the project in a separate cmBuilder project. And then we ended up winning a behavioral health project on the south side of this campus. So that's another cmBuilder endeavor that we're working on the south side of the campus. So it just speaks to the, how much the owner loved it, and, they're all about it. It's really cool. So present day, here's what Rady Children's looked like as of last month. But you can see that matches exactly what the superintendents had planned. So it's really, really cool to kind of do a back and forth and see, plan versus reality, and know that this actually means something and that we're actually working the plan, which is really awesome. All right, we're moving north. We're going to everybody's favorite airport, LAX. um,
Nope.
All right, so LAX, when I joined Southern California about 7 years ago, at that point in time, we were just turning over Terminal 1. We were actively working on Terminal 1.5. In the past couple of years, we've turned over Delta Airlines during the COVID time, Terminals 2 and 3. I kind of mentioned it before. I showed you the T4 program. We're actively working on T4. Before my time in Southern California, we also worked on the interior Terminal 6, I believe, and then we turned over a few years before that Terminal 7 and 8. Point being, we've worked on every single terminal at LAX. Don't blame us if you don't like LAX, but it's just so complicated to work at a busy airport. And we're proud of the work that we do there, obviously, but it's very complex. And cmBuilder has been a huge component to this work coming up in the future. So I mentioned T4. This is more scenarios that I just said that Rady Children's has. This is 52 scenarios. Again, because we have a phased team approach, we're tackling different scopes of work. And that's because we have our head house team in yellow there. So that's all of our head house work going on. That's, closest to departures and arrivals. That's where you enter the building. We also have our phase 2 concourse team shown in red. So that's all the different scopes of work happening. All the FEs are in there fleshing out, their responsibilities. And then we also have all of our kind of temp conditions and site work people in there as well, and our safety professionals. Beyond the typical phasing and site logistics that we all know cmBuilder can do, the really unique thing about the T4 program is that our safety professionals wanted to get in on the fun, and so what the team did here is they visualized an emergency action plan. And, we all know that accidents can happen on a job site, but the worst thing that could happen is you not plan for those accidents. So what we visualized here, the safety engineers and safety managers here visualized a man down in a trench scenario. As awful as that is, you need to have a plan for it. So we just visualize that emergency action plan. Man down in the trench, what do you do? Where does the ambulance go? Where's our rally point? Where does the EHS team and police come to? And more importantly, how do you get back to the construction site? Oftentimes what happens is people don't know where to go because you're in an active construction site. So we're just visualizing that plan. In this specific scenario, the best way to get that person back over is to attach the man basket, the litter basket, and haul that person back over to the ambulance. So they use this in their staff meeting and their OAC meeting to communicate, this is our plan. Again, not the greatest scenario in the world, but it's something better than a PDF. So I think we're going to see much more of this and visualizing emergency action plans on our job sites. So staying at LAX, but we're at a separate project. We have like 4 separate projects at LAX right now. This is our LAX CTA program, the Central Terminal area, otherwise known as the facelift of LAX. I'm really proud of this one. And honestly, it started out as an experiment where we brought in 32 Revit models into cmBuilder. I was just curious if that would even work, if it would just blow up the program. I'm sure Shane hated me. But if anybody's hit, function F2, you get this nice little window that shows how many triangles, how many calls, things like that. And the reason this worked is we kind of just stripped away all the unnecessary content out of those Revit models. You're not going to find a mullion, a railing, a hand dryer, a toilet partition. You're not going to find any of that stuff in there. It's just what the team needs to see to sequence all of that work around the entire horseshoe. The scope of this project is everything from the terminal face to the face of the parking structure. So we're going to be redoing the curbs, the columns, the bollards. We're going to be repaving, putting a new facade and curtain wall up on the parking structures. So this is what that looks like with all 32 Revit models built into the software. So you have your air traffic control tower, both old and new. You have your new automated people mover tram. We have all the parking structures, the central utility plant, the famous theme building, which there's something exciting happening with that finally. And then you have every terminal in there as well. So what you're left with is a video very, very similar to what I showed with my 360 camera sticking out of my sunroof. So we use zones to go show crosswalks and the roads and the curbs, and you can see every column is labeled. So now our team can go in there and kind of visualize that SIP schedule that needs to happen. We're going to take over these islands, we're going to take over these columns, and we're going to work our way around the entire horseshoe to give LAX a complete facelift. Again, this all has to happen prior to the Olympics here in 2028. So a lot of work to sequence. Sorry if it's going to make LAX a mess, but it's going to happen. So the reason this works is I used the split geometry tool and I cut off every terminal just at its face. So we're saving a lot of geometry by not even including that because it really doesn't matter. So it's a really, really awesome, really proof of concept of how much cmBuilder can handle if you take the time to strip away the unnecessary pieces. So really proud of this, and it kind of shows how much we could toss into the program. So one thing that, Rich and I have been talking about is we have our field staff in there. We're doing all this 4D sequencing. We're using it on active construction projects. Why not get the safety professionals involved? Not that they need to be expert users, but they should be able to open up scenarios and, navigate around our field staff's scenarios to go see if something is actually safe. So this is kind of an agenda we put together. We just did this training, in May?
Yep.
And here's kind of our agenda of some of the things that we thought that the safety professionals should get out of cmBuilder by flying around our superintendents and field staff scenarios. Here's some of the projects that we kind of focused on. Again, the way this works is we had everybody bring their laptop to our training room in our regional office, and we just did a picks and clicks training. Again, not to be power users, but can you open up a scenario and cycle through the milestones, and can you zoom in and out and just evaluate what your superintendent has planned, and can that be done in a safe way? So that was really, really awesome to have everybody involved in that training. But safety means different things to different people, right? For an owner and a client, that looks a little bit different. For a construction professional, that looks a little bit different as well. So on the top right, this is from a procurement effort that we were showing a hospital client that we have that safe and separate mentality. We're thinking about the doctors, the nurses. We have a path of travel for them to actually get to the hospital while we expand their roadway. On the top left, I came up here last year and talked about Harbor UCLA, a really big hospital project in Southern California. The really cool part about this one up here is this is actually produced for a change order. Like, we're trying to communicate and win this change order with the client. Everything you see was done by a project manager, oddly enough. A project manager put this together. The change order in question is this elevated trestle where we're going to be running mechanical utilities over the roadway here. And from a safety perspective, he's showing controlled access with this gate. He's showing signage on the bridge itself. He's showing, protection for that bridge. And then the hospital always has a first aid station and then the helipad. So a bunch of different safety elements, but for a construction person, they don't matter. But for a client and owner, they definitely do.
So a couple here on the bottom. So again, Kyle was saying that the point wasn't for them to actually have to go in there and draw in the program. It was more to question what the plan was. For instance, again, at the OC Sand, what's the plan? How are you guys going to protect the pit? How are we going to make sure people don't fall in the hole? What's your access plan? How is everybody going to get down there? Are you going to put a man lift down in there? There's no way you're going to have a man lift with that TBM down there. So had to get a stair tower. Same thing over at UTLF. So what's your plan to do the permanent fencing all the way around the deck, as well as your controlled access zone? Where are the guys going to tie off? So it was more about showing them like how to click through things and start developing those questions so they can go back and question the superintendents.
Yeah. So sort of wrapping up here, images didn't show up, but sort of wrapping up here, I think we've done a fantastic job on the procurement side of things. If I rewind 2 years, every single procurement started off with, well, what are we going to visualize for this job? How are we going to visualize this job? Who are we going to hire to produce this rendering? It's not even a question anymore. It's just like, who's taking charge of cmBuilder? What superintendent is leading the effort here? So we haven't even had those questions in 2 years, which has been really, really awesome. I didn't even really realize it until I was putting this slide together. In addition to procurement, I think we've done a fantastic job handing it off. Our 700 trained users, 300 of those being field. I think we're doing a great job with handoff. You just saw we're onboarding safety professionals, so I'm really excited about that. The next step is, since we've done all that, why not, when we bring trades on site and new people to the project, why can't we just fast forward to the month they're showing up and use this as a site orientation tool versus an old PowerPoint that really doesn't quite tell the story of what's happening on the project? I kind of mentioned it before. One of the things that all of our projects are starting to do now is use this as a medium to speak to in all of the recurring meetings that everybody has to deal with. Our OAC meetings, our staff meetings, our foreman's meetings that happen every single week. And even in buyout meetings, having more clarity of what we're actually expecting to happen on this job. And you better believe when the big wigs come to town, we bring up cmBuilder and use it for executive reviews to show them that we're, planning the work and working the plan. So really excited to take these couple next steps over the next year and get more people on board. And with that, that's our presentation. A lot to jam pack in here. It's LinkedIn profiles if you want to connect with us, but we'll take any questions if we have time. If not, no worries.